everybody, and welcome to the I Rock Knits podcast. My name is Cori Eichelberger, and coming to you from Minneapolis, Minnesota. It is the day before St. Patrick's Day when this podcast will go live, so the 16th of March, 2021. We are a year officially into the great pandemic of 2021. I don't know how they will attribute that going forward, but welcome. I'm wearing the green today, and I've got a shawl with some green in it, so my little nod to the Irish. I'm not Irish, but I will celebrate with all of you. It's kind of gloomy and overcast here today, and I have a couple of stories from last week to tell you about. Let's start with the elephant in the room. I am still wearing my old glasses. Not that it matters to any of you, but I can't see quite as well as I would like, and the optometrist's office called this week and they broke my orange glasses trying to put the lenses in. They didn't do it. They sent them away, and so I can't get that frame anymore. So I had a little grieving session. I was really upset. I had a bad day. I will tell you all about that. But man, I don't want to go look for new glasses. I don't want to shop. I don't want to go. There are several places that I can go to in the Twin Cities who have quirky, fun, colorful glasses. It's not that. My eyeglasses were outside of our budget the last time I bought them, in my mind. Wasn't that we couldn't afford them, but I just spent more than I thought I should have. And they had the springs in the hinges, and they were so nice. Most comfortable pair of glasses I ever had. And these hurt my nose a little by the end of the day, and they hurt my right ear a little. So I was just really disappointed. I tried not to be angry with the woman who called because it was not her fault. But she could tell. I was just like, you've got to be kidding. I asked you that and she said, I know, but it happens sometimes, especially when the glasses are older, which mine were several years, many years, 4 maybe. So I will be in the market for new glasses. I don't have to get orange again, but I certainly want a color, something fun. Yeah, and the lady was like, I know, I'm so sorry, but what are you going to do? I said, it's not you. I know you didn't do it, but she said, just come in and pick out another pair. And I was like, yeah, like that's just easy, something that you wear every single day and you want to be comfortable. Well, anyway, so purple glasses. What am I wearing today? This is the Toad Hollow Tunic. I designed this pattern last November. It has a little stitch pattern that goes down the front right here below the V-neck, and then it also has that under the arms to the bottom and up the back all the way. So it's just a little slip knit stitch, and then at the bottom of the hem, the hem has like a little brioche or fisherman's rib on it. So it's a really fun thing to wear, I think, because it's different. There's quite a bit of knitting because it's a tunic, and if you have a big bottom, there's a big circumference to go around, but there are no sleeves. So, once you get up here, then you can try it on to see how long you want the straps to be and where it's hitting you. So that's got that nice feature for that. I have on my Keep Calm and Carry yarn. I think I got this from maybe Tix Trinkets at ZK at the retreat, but she has an Etsy shop. But you can Google this on Etsy and find a necklace that suits you. But I don't always have a necklace on. I'm not a huge necklace wearer, but I was in my closet looking for a shirt to put on under this, and I thought, I'll put green on for St. Patrick's Day. Probably not what I would normally wear with it, but yeah, it works. Thank you all so much for your love of the Grandma Elsie story. My Cori stories have been steeped in family history because I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to teach anywhere. I'm not going to retreats, which I was doing monthly, sometimes twice a month before. I was, teaching locally. So things were happening in my life, and I had stories to tell you, things about or that were related in some way, shape, or form to knitting. And during the pandemic, I haven't had that. So I really thank you for hanging in there. I know a lot of you comment that you like the Cori stories, so thank you. They will continue to be kind of steeped in whatever's going on in my life, but right now, not in teaching and not in like knitting retreats. We also had the time change this last weekend, and it affects me so much. I don't know if that's true of everyone else, but it takes me about 2 weeks to kind of, get used to it. And I will be doing melatonin at night for a few nights because I lay awake if I try to go to bed too early. It's not that I don't sleep well, but I'm a night owl, so I like to stay up until I'm tired, and I need to kind of push that back so I'm not sleeping until noon, which is not what I do. But, if you keep staying up, then you sleep later and later in the morning, and then with the time change, it becomes crazy. So I hope all of you are adapting well. My husband said yesterday, it's gonna be dark in the mornings now for a while when I go for my run. And I know he hates that too when he has to get up, and he goes really early, about 5:30. He is out running with the dog usually. He doesn't run super far, but he has been a runner for years, and it really makes him feel better. And so he goes early, and I know he doesn't like it when they're out before dawn, because people are getting up and going to work if you're doing the early shifts, and so the cars are going, and if it's dark, he gets a little worried. But so anyway, welcome. Come on in for your hug today. We can't see one another in person, so we just kind of have to sit in that moment where we're saying, okay, I'm feeling that hug from Cori this week. I really like to hug some of you who are struggling. I get comments and emails and messages from some of you, and I know that you're struggling, and I see you, and it is hard. This is hard that we are now waiting for vaccines, right? We were waiting for the pandemic to end, and now many people are just waiting for the vaccines so that they'll lift some of the restrictions so that enough people, we can get to that herd immunity so we can kind of move on. Oh, I do want to tell you all about May. So someone asked, how is May? And May is really well. Maybe I'll move this up. May called me a week ago, maybe, and they had a discussion group. So they are starting to open up in the nursing home because they've all been vaccinated, of course. They didn't give, they were there first, and then most of the employees have had the opportunity to be vaccinated in a nursing home, so they are allowing them to play bingo. She played bingo twice last week, which she really likes, and they play for a quarter, I think. And then she had this discussion group. She said there were 8 of them, and she said, I wanted to tell you, someone asked why we would plant on the Good Friday. Why is that a thing? That someone would plant crops or plant their garden on Good Friday or start their garden on Good Friday. And I thought, why is she asking me? Like, I don't have a garden. I mean, I've grown some things before, but I don't have a big garden. I don't have a big green thumb. And then she said, I was telling them that maybe Cori could get on her computer and tell us. So I did. I Googled it. I got on the computer because I had not heard that thing. I know that in Minnesota, we don't usually plant anything before Mother's Day, right? Like that's kind of the rule of thumb, that we can still have a frost through Mother's Day. It's not common, but we can have snow, we can have a frost, and it can get very cold through Mother's Day. So we do a lot of greenhouse starting in the house and then moving things out then. So, I was kind of sure I could probably find something on this, and I did. I found an article that said that in the 1400s, when potatoes first came to the UK and were becoming a crop, and they were sending potatoes, people were fearful of the seeds in the potatoes, and they were called eyes, and they were saying that there were eyes in the potatoes, and that there were evil spirits in the potatoes. So those of the Christian faith believed that if you planted and blessed your ground on Good Friday, that the evil spirits from the potatoes would not affect everything else. And also, the ground is getting ready in many parts of the country about the time when Good Friday happens, although, it swings quite. So I'm wondering if Good Friday didn't swing back in the 1400s, 1500s, 16, whatever, like if it was just on, April 2nd, because now, it moves with Easter, And so I sent her an article, and she was just tickled, and she called. I talked to her yesterday, and she said she made a copy for everyone in the group. So I don't know how she did that, if she asked one of the nurses or what, but she made a copy for everyone in the group, and took it to the group, and they were all very interested, she said, in the part about the potatoes. So May is doing well. She does have a sore on her foot due to poor circulation, and she's still wearing a big boot on it, and I think it's from when she lays at night. She doesn't move a lot, and so it pools the circulation kind of in that heel. She got a big blister, and they're worried about infection, but it hurts her, but it's nothing life-threatening, hopefully. So anyway, I don't know if I should be telling you much of her medical information, but you asked, and I think she would tell someone that called, that she's got this sore on her foot. So anyway, thanks for asking and for caring about May. She's still getting some letters, and she has written a couple of people back. Her handwriting, she said, is just terrible, and she doesn't write to me anymore as much, and it was very shaky and difficult to write. But she said some people asked about Minnesota, and she wanted to answer their questions. I thought that was so cute. So but she is still getting some letters from some of you, and she tells me where they come from, and one of you lives near Lake City, lives down by her, maybe near the ski resort down there or something. Anyway, she was telling me that. My husband was telling me that Medicare or Medicaid or somebody has made a recommendation that the nursing homes need to open, and that people need to be able to go in and see their loved ones. And so he is going to call this week to see if, because they've all been vaccinated now, if we can go down masked. Absolutely, we don't want to get anybody sick, and we haven't, our time hasn't come up. We haven't heard anything about vaccines for us yet. I haven't heard anybody in my area other than like nurses and whatever. So we're hoping that we can get in to see her and say hello, because she's been in that room for a year. She got a new roommate. Her roommate left, got to leave, with someone who was there for like long-term treatment kind of care kind of a thing. And I think it was because of the pandemic that this person stayed there. So they moved out, so she got a new roommate, and she said that's working out fine. So, all right, let's get going here. 13 minutes in, and I haven't talked about a lot of knitting. I have 2 audiobooks for you this week. The one that I forgot to talk about a week or 2 ago is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I liked it, but it wasn't one of my top picks ever. I found it a little disturbing, a little sad, and sometimes it's just the frame of mind you're in. I liked reading it. I couldn't stop reading it. It was a page turner for sure. So here's what it says. On an island off the coast of Ireland, guests gathered to celebrate 2 people joining their lives together as one. The groom, handsome and charming, a rising television star. The bride, smart and ambitious, a magazine publisher. It's a wedding for a magazine or for a celebrity. The designer dress, the remote location, the luxe party favors, the boutique whiskey. The cell phone service may be spotty and the waves may be rough, but every detail has been expertly planned and will be expertly executed. And then something happens, and someone turns up, and there's intrigue and suspense, but it's a character-driven novel, so you really follow each character and what their history is, and that keeps you interested. So yeah, I would recommend it. It's not going to be one of my top 10 of the year, right? It was good, but I just read a couple of really good ones recently, like the next one that I want to talk to you about. And that is Anxious People by Fredrick Backman. Oh dear, did I love this book. I just love this book. And I want everyone to have the same experience I had with it. So I'm not even going to tell you too much of the premise. I guess by reading the blurb, just one sentence blurb on the book, you find out some things. So that's the piece I'm going to share with you. A poignant, charming novel about a crime that never took place, a would-be bank robber who disappears into thin air, and 8 extremely anxious strangers who find they have more in common than they ever imagined. So it is based on this premise of all of these people getting together and getting to know one another. I'm not going to give away any more than that, because I think part of the finding out of what the book is about. So I would recommend, do not go and read a whole book jacket back. I just knew it was Fredrick Backman, and he writes some quirky characters, and they're very quirky, they're very different. This is not a book for everyone. And maybe it is a book for everyone. I hope it is a book for everyone. But I like finding out interesting things about the characters and having character-driven things, even if I don't like all the characters, right? Like, I'm okay with that if the character is sometimes unlikable. But in this situation, you're finding out the backstory, which is what helps you to decide that you might like that person more, because now you know their history and you can empathize. Oh, such a good read. I really liked it. I hope they make it into a movie, because I think it would be amazing. Highly recommend. 2 thumbs up today on the audiobooks. In the recipe section this week, I have some news. My friend Stacie did a huge favor. Well, it wasn't even a favor because I didn't ask her. Just did something really nice for me this week. She was in the podcast group on Ravelry looking for the recipes, and through the recipes, and she noticed that in each recipe I have what entry number in the thread it's linked in. So if you want to go and look up a recipe, then it'll say that the actual recipe is in thread or entry number 27 or whatever, and then you have to go over to 27, then you have to copy and paste it. So while she was in there, she made a link behind every recipe, or turned each recipe title into an actual link, so you could just click on it, which is so nice, because I was never going to take the time to go back to episode 42. But these are all the recipes that are listed in the Ravelry group, and then now there is a link to take you to the recipes so that you can just navigate that a little more quickly. Thank you, Stacie. That was really, really, really nice of you. And speaking of telling stories about May was a good cook. And so I'm going to share a May recipe today. And it is in this little keeper, because this is the one that she had sent to me. And Amber, you have to call me and or when we talk next, tell me where I get this made into a little piece of wood. There is a place that will take a piece of wood and put your recipe on it, and this is in May's handwriting, and so I would like to have that happen. But this is a recipe for May's meatballs, and nothing I have ever made has ever been quite as good as hers, even using the recipe. But it makes a huge batch, and she always made them for the girls. So in our family, Ross's brother has 2 girls, and we have a girl, and then that was all there were. So there are no boys in the family, and so we would always say the girls, because it's the 3 grandchildren. But 5 pounds of ground beef and 3/4 pound of ground fresh pork, and then in a large bowl, 2 eggs, tight slices. Tear up 3 slices of white bread, no crust, add 1/2 cup of milk, stir, add meat, sprinkle 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1/2 teaspoon of allspice, stir well, then knead like a bread dough, add 1/4 pound of melted butter, stir, add, and then she writes this, which I just think is so charming. I forgot, add 2 medium chopped fine onions, fry in oil and margie, till brown a little. Bake in oven with creamed soups in the bottom of a baking pan. Bake for 300 to 350 for about 3/4 of an hour to an hour. And it makes 50 meatballs. And it is delicious. And she wrote on the back, it can be cut in half for smaller amounts. So I will put that out there this week, and we should probably have it at my house too. We should probably have meatballs. But, and I think she usually used whatever cream soup she had on hand. So like cream of mushroom or cream of celery, cream of chicken, what I think. But I have just used the grease in the bottom of the pan to just make kind of a roux and make my own gravy, like a brown gravy to pour in the bottom of that pan. So if you're not a fan of cream soups or you don't have cream soups in the house, it's certainly not necessary to make it with cream soups. Hers is delicious though. I don't know what she does to make it so good, but her meatballs are always just top notch. So there's your recipe of the week this week. I have a couple of little tips this week, and one that I forgot to tell last time. But I have had this sitting on my dining room table for a while now, and I just wanted to show it. I got it on Amazon. And if you like stickers, you need to get this little book because it has these great stickers in it. And there are like 5 or 6 pages of really nice quality. The paper is really nice. Stickers all about knitting. Aren't they cute? So I got it on Amazon. I think it cost me $2. So add it to your cart sometime. I love knitting stickers. And I looked and it was still available out there. And then another thing I purchased was this little tapestry needle. Look at me looking through the bottom of my glasses still, folks. I will get new glasses and I will be able to see better. Things will get better here on the podcast. I have to take this out. Boy, did you see my thumbs work there? I really had to grip. This is a ball of yarn with needles, and then when you open it up, look what you get. Isn't that cute? Yeah, I love that. 5 different needles. And a little keeper by Tulip, I think. And I got this at Churchmouse Yarn online. I added it to an order for some yarn I was ordering. It came like this. I don't know if you can get it at other places, but super cute. There you go. Let's do the shawl of the week. The shawl this week is Spring Awakening by Paulina Popiolek. And it came out in May of 2011. I knit it shortly after that. There are 84 projects, but it is in 500 people's queues, so it's very popular. It is knit with a US size 5 and a US size 8 needle, and it is in fingering weight yarn. And the reason that I chose to knit this shawl at the time was because it was a bottom-up shawl. So you cast on all the stitches along the bottom, and you do this bottom feather and fan, changing colors or not. You could do it in one color, but most of people did it in 2 colors or more. It takes 1,290 yards. So for the big version, so the 3 skeins is necessary. Spring Awakening is a crescent-shaped shawl knit from the bottom up in sock weight yarn. It features garter stitch body with a wide lace border. I have used 2 different colors and yarns to achieve distinct wave effect. The shawl can be easily customized to any size. All directions are in the pattern. Oh, look at this. It says right here. Picture shows 2 versions. Large version uses 2.25 skeins, 900 meters, and the smaller version uses 50 grams, 75 grams. And then for the medium size, I have used 113 grams and 105 grams of 2 different yarns. The pattern is written and charted, all explained. How to use charts in notes. It is important to read them. There you go. Okay, so there's the bottom. And then here's the top. And then it kind of has this top edge here that goes like this. Yep. So you are knitting back and forth, and every row you do, it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller, which is really a nice concept for a shawl. If you've never done one this way before, I highly recommend giving it a try. Yes, it is a lot of stitches to cast on. Yes, the rows are long at first, but then it just gets smaller and smaller. And then when you get up into this purple section, you're starting to do short rows, and you're going back and forth until you get up into this top section where you're doing littler short rows. So I think that the pattern, the lace pattern, is just stunning. I do like purple and green together quite a bit. And this bottom part is super simple, right? Feather and fan, which you've all probably done before. A repeat of 6 increases and then 6 decreases and then 6 increases and then 6 decreases is usually how it goes. And then you just have a little garter stitch right here. And then this up here in the original pattern is all garter. But if you know me well, you know I'm not a fan of garter stitch. I just don't like the way it looks. You can love garter stitch. I have no problem with that, but I decided to do the top in stockinette, which meant that I had to do a little fudging on the short rows to get that top edge to kind of become flat. The first time I did it, it was getting a hump in it, and I had to rip back and fix it and do a few more decreases because, you know, garter stitch in height is different than stockinette stitch. So I just had to do a little bit, but that's Spring Awakening, and we're going into spring, and so I think it's just the perfect time to talk about shawls and getting shawls on the needles. Let's do the sweater of the week. It's really working out so funny because I've done these in just a random order. I mean, I did them alphabetically, but occasionally things got out of order, and to have the fact that we're doing this green shawl today and then this fisherman's sweater, which is kind of apropos to Ireland and the Irish and the ocean and the UK and I don't know, Scotland and fisherman sweaters. It just seemed clever. I had nothing to do with that. So this sweater was knit 100 years ago, and I still love it. It is called the Plaits, Knots, and Crosses Tunic by Cathy Payson. It is from the book Knitting the New Classics, which was done by Kristin Nicholas. So it was a collaboration of a bunch of designers putting that book together. And the book contains 41 patterns. It came out in 1995, and it is available on Amazon for $9.97. And used, you can get it for 43 cents. So if you love this sweater, or you love looking at patterns and you want to go out and look up Knitting the New Classics and see what other patterns were, you know, included in that book with Kristin Nicholas, you certainly, you know, could look at that. And then if you're an Amazon shopper at all and you want to look at the used books, you could get the book for 50 cents, and I think the shipping was like $3. So the book, the pattern is available. The individual pattern is not available on Ravelry. It was taken down, and I don't know if that was done by the designer or because it was part of the book, but there is no individual pattern page. There's a picture of the pattern on someone, so it's a little weird, but there are not a lot of projects for this because, of course, this was so many years pre-Ravelry that even if someone was took a picture of it, they had nowhere to post it back in the day. I don't think I knitted until we moved back to Minnesota from Virginia when Kylie was 8. And Kylie was born in 97. And so I'm going to say that the book would have been maybe 10 years old even when I knit the pattern. But the pattern holds up over time. You can see we've got a traditional diamond pattern here throughout the whole sweater, with the cross in the middle, and then it is a dropped shouldered sweater, which would be very traditional but easy to knit. So that means that you're just working all, you know, straight up, and the sleeves are just sewn on here along the outside. It's just a flat. I'm hoping that you can all see that. And so it's very traditional in its makeup, and it doesn't have a lot of panels like a lot of the other fisherman's knits that I've seen that have panels of cables and things. This is just kind of what I would call a classic style. It was knit with Classic Elite Yarns Cambridge when it came out, which was an Aran weight, but it was knit at a worsted gauge, 20 stitches to 4 inches in double seed stitch ribbing. The Cambridge that it was originally knitted was 75% cotton and 30% wool, so it wasn't a traditional wool sweater, but I'm pretty sure I knit mine in like Galway or Cascade, just something standard. It takes 1,360 to 1,530 yards and comes in sizes 40, 44, 48, and 52. So I do think it was considered a unisex pattern at the time, that it could be worn by men and women, which is why it went up to size 52. I just thought I would bring it as if you have never knit anything in Fisherman's style of sweater. There are lots of Shetland sweaters out there that are kind of traditional that don't have color work. I did do a little research on why I'm not using the word Gansey in this situation, or Guernsey fisherman's jumpers. And this is what I found. The Gansey is a unique type of jumper traditionally worn by fishermen. They are knitted with 5-ply worsted wool in one piece with no seams. And so since this one was knit in 3 pieces and was seamed, I thought, well, it's not a traditional Gansey or Guernsey, which were often knit with long, 5 long double-pointed needles. I'm certainly not an expert in this, and you could do a lot more research than what I have done. But I did find a Wikipedia article called the Aran Jumper. So here's some information. The Aran Jumper is a style of jumper that takes its name from the Aran Islands off the coast of Ireland. A traditional Aran jumper usually is off-white in color with cable patterns on the body and sleeves. Originally, the jumpers were knitted using unscoured wool that retained its natural oils, lanolin, which made the garments water resistant and meant they remained wearable even when wet. Use of the word jumper or other options such as pullover and jersey is largely determined by the regional version of the English used. In the case of Ireland, Britain, and Australia, jumper is the standard word, whereas sweater is mainly found in tourist shops and in North America. The jumper usually features 4 to 6 texture patterns, each of which is about 5 to 10 centimeters in width. They move down the jumper in columns from top to bottom. Usually the patterns are symmetrical to a center axis extending down the center of the front and the back panel. So read up on fisherman's knit, Aran knit, Aran Ganseys, all that kind of thing. But back in the day, that's the experience I wanted to have. I wanted to have an all-over patterned sweater that was really the shape of a sweatshirt. And so it's highly wearable. I'm sure that there are patterns out there where people have incorporated yoke construction or a raglan construction instead of kind of that drop shoulder look, if you're looking for something a little more modern. But I still wear this occasionally. I do like it quite a bit. I have a sense of pride about an all-over sweater like that. I think when you wear it, you feel like you're wearing something historical. So yeah, that's the sweater of the week. I have some special notes and things I have to tell you this week. And the first one is that I got hacked. Last week on the YouTube podcast, underneath in the comments, a gentleman, I believe, took it upon himself to grace us with his biblical verses from the Quran. And many of you got those quotes underneath your comments. And I don't know if it was a bot that just went in and did over and over and over so that so many of you got them, but I just wanted you to know that I did not put them there. It looked like this. So it was written in whatever the language is, and that it was kind of translated. And it was from Alhamdulillah 21. I reported it repeatedly on YouTube and blocked the user on my site, but it started out with turn ye to our Lord in repentance. And so it was inappropriate for some of you to receive that, and I apologize for that. Just know that I didn't see it right away. And if you should ever get something like that, would you please reach out to me via email or text, or let me know somehow if you're a friend of mine. If you see those out there that they can be deleted. Remember, I had that guy for a while that wanted a red knit turtleneck. And these things happen sometimes. I just hope that no one was offended or thought that I had posted something really religious and weird in all of my comments over and over and over again. I did reach out to some of you and let you know, but then it got to be kind of onerous. I was like, wow, these are everywhere. I just need to get them down. And so I had to go into each comment and take it off and block it and report it. So just wanted to let you know about that. And then last week, when I showed the new Taco Tuesday patterns, thank you, some of you. You're so nice to be kind to me about my quirky nature and some of the things that I knit and do. But someone who wrote it to me, it's really cute. Frogginfool commented. She said, "Too fun. Forget Tuesday. Taco 2021 made my day." I was like, yes to all the tacos, all in all the different ways. Now, a little announcement that I have to make. I am teaching at Knit and Escape. And so I had applied to teach for them in February, and in some weird way, shape, or form, they had lost my submission. And I had reached out to Kristin and said, I didn't hear back one way or the other. It's fine if I didn't make the cut. And she was like, I don't think we ever got anything from you. And I was like, well, yeah, I sent it in December. I sent all my submissions, and then they went back and they saw it, and then they felt really bad, and then they hired me for their April retreat that they're having. So I am teaching on April 8th in the afternoon, like 2 to 4, 3 to 5, and then in the evening 6 to 8 or 7 to 9, something like that. It's all Eastern Standard Time, so I have to convert it for Central for myself, but I am teaching that first day. It is being called the Unbirthday Party because it is Christy's birthday, I believe, on the 8th, and the retreat goes from the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th. I am teaching in the afternoon my Fixer Upper class, which is a class where I encourage people to bring problem knits to class, and then I troubleshoot how to fix them. So if you have a sweater that doesn't fit, if you have a neckline that is ill-fitting, if you have a button band that didn't work out correctly, if your sleeves are too long, all those things, you bring that item to class normally, and we would take a look at it, and I would lay it out on the table, and then I would provide some type of solution or two, something I can come up with. And other people also can chime in and say, oh, I had the exact same problem or whatever. I will also have some tips and tricks that I will bring to that class, and some of them will be things that I've talked on the podcast before. But that is the first class, called Fixer Upper. We'll be going over how to fix things that have gone horribly wrong. And then the second class I think I'm teaching in the evening, I might have these two reversed, but is Latvian braids, Latvian horizontal braids. We will cast on the Choose Your Own Path hat from the Minnesota 52 book that has the corrugated ribbing and the Latvian braid in it. I will be going over the Vickel braid from the Easiest Cable Hat Ever and Cori's 2-color cast on in that class. So they're both 2-hour class sessions, all done on Zoom, all done virtually, but I was happy that they asked me to do it, although I felt bad because I thought that maybe they were just asking me because they had misplaced my submission and didn't really make the cut in the first place. Anyway, you don't want to push yourself out on people, but if you are wanting to do that, registration is open now. I have no idea how registration is going, whether or not the classes are open or closed. They have a ton of teachers and a ton of activities, and it's not just knitting. Like, you can do a lot of other things, take classes in a lot of other areas. I had someone reach out to me in the last 2 weeks about the Pump Up the Plaid blanket pattern, and was concerned because there was what she thought was a mistake in the pattern, and it was a typo in the color numbers, contrast color 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you purchased the Pump Up the Plaid blanket and you have not printed it out or you have started knitting it, just know that there was an update to that pattern and that the numbers, it should be very obvious when you get to it. And I'd have to remember, but it's like on page 3 maybe, and it says contrast color 1, 2, 3, and 4. Instead of main color, contrast 1, 2, 3. See the difference? We had switched the way we were talking about the colors in the pattern, and most patterns would be written as a main color and then additional colors, not that all the colors have a number 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we'd missed changing it out there. So I just wanted to put that out here because I know a lot of you bought that pattern, might not have started knitting it, might not, might look and then might reach out to me and say, hey, I think this is a mistake. And we caught that early on. So just check your updates on Ravelry, or if you didn't get it on Ravelry, know that when you get to that part, you just change it. Contrast color 1 should be the main color, and then the other 3 colors. And you've already been knitting at that point when that happens. And so I think most of you will be like, oh, I get what happened here. I have a new design this week. Design this week. This is the second to last one. I have one more new design coming, which is an updated older pattern. Oh, I just uncovered something that I want to show. And this is an updated older pattern, but one that many of you will not have ever seen before or have ever heard of. So I am excited to share, and many of you have gotten my newsletter. If you are not on my newsletter list over on irocknits.com, about halfway down on the left-hand side is a subscribe box. You put in your name and your email address, and I will send you a coupon code every time I put out a new pattern. So this pattern is on sale for the next few days. I think the code is Blanky, and it is a Blanky. This is my new Baby Kiki pattern. This is a pattern that I wrote many years ago called Baby Kiki, Keekee. And it is a miniature baby blanket. It is the baby's carry-around blanket. You knit it with the softest yarn that you can find. This one is a Kristin one, and it is got little crosses in each corner, but this is just lovely. It is knit in 2 weights, worsted weight and sport weight. This one has little hearts up in the corner. Each of the corners, those are optional. It has a seed stitch edge. And the blankets are about 16 by 16 or 17 by 17. Here's one. This one has A, B, C, D around the 4 corners. So it starts in the bottom. There's an A. It is also optional to put the little ribbing holes, or the little eyelet holes around the outside. So if you want to put the eyelet holes, they're written in there, but if you don't want to, you don't have to. I really like putting the really soft satiny ribbon in there because I think little toddlers love to touch that little satin ribbon, right? And it just pulls out pretty easily. For this original sample was knit in Debbie Bliss Baby Cashmerino. It's really soft. It doesn't have anything in the corners, and it just has the ribbon. And you could do it in a baby's nursery colors. The quote that I used on this blanket is, "One who sleeps under knitted blankets is comforted by love." And the little paragraph that I wrote as romance copy for the beginning page of the blanket is, "Many parents through the years have lamented the fact that their toddlers drag around a hand-knit baby Afghan as their favorite nap and bedtime snuggly. However, all this dragging around makes for a stretched out, often dirty and hole-filled mess because the size is just too big. Here is my solution: a much smaller, soft blankie, thus Kiki, that a parent can use as a small cover in infancy, but the child can then travel with throughout toddlerhood. You can adorn with a satin ribbon around the edges for an even prettier presentation. These Kikis are also well used for a preemie." And the pattern is written for 2 gauges, worsted and sport. So there you go, Baby Kiki. I think the pattern is on sale for $2 for the next few days. and then it goes up to regular $6 pattern. But if you're looking for those charts, they are on the last page of the pattern. Perfect. They're great for throwing over the baby's head or body in a car seat when they're a newborn, or in an infant seat when they're little, and then as they grow it just can become, you know, their whoopee, their blinky, their kiki, whatever your child, grandchild wanted to call it. Amber took the new pictures. We used some of the old blankets and then the new blanket for this one is, I think this is the softest, the white one. Oh, yeah, it's really soft. It's got this blue little ribbon here in it. The little images that go in the corner are all the same size, so they can be swapped out for one another. And there's a duck and a train and a heart and ABC and a cross. And there's just a bunch. I'd say maybe I did 8 or 9 little charts of things that you can put in the corners of the blanket if you want to. Otherwise, it gives you a great cast on number, a seed stitch edge, and you can just knit a blanket, and you can, you know, take the idea and just run with it. Because it's much, much faster to knit this for a baby shower, right? A last minute baby gift than to take on a baby blanket. I would like all of you to raise your hands if you have a baby blanket in a bag somewhere that never got finished for a baby gift. Or you finished it years later. Or the child is about to graduate from high school and it never got finished, right? So these are just that perfect size. It's, you know, simple to knit, easy to knit. So Baby Kiki is now on sale on Etsy, Ravelry, my website, as well as Love Crafts. Another thing that I did finish up this last week, and I posted it, was that I finished the color work owl sweater, and I decided that the red yarn just was not going to be a thing, and so I ripped back the one sleeve that had run out of the red, and I just put the band on a short sleeve sweater. The sweater does not fit me well. I can't get the one sleeve on because the sleeve is too tight. I did everything I knew to make it bigger without having to rip the whole sweater back, and the sweater's knit from the top down, so it meant taking back all that color work. And I did the button bands in the same color work and had just enough of the red yarn to finish that up. So it's going to be a great sample. It is not something that I can wear because the one sleeve is just super tight. But if you come to my classes in the future and you have really skinny little arms, you could try this on, because this one just does not stretch. It's very, very tight, but it turned out cute, I think. Really cute still in short sleeved. So that's the Knit Cahoot sweater that had been on the needles for years. It was part of the prototype for the first sweater I ever knit, and then obviously it had some trouble, and I just decided that yes, I wanted it done, so I finished it up. I finished another project this week, and this was in from my whip pile too, so I also laid this in with the owl sweater on the table. Because the pattern was written for leg warmers, mitts, a cowl, maybe a hat, a bunch of different projects. It was pages and pages long, and then you had options for how often you wanted to make the chevron and how many different colors you wanted to do the chevron in. So there were probably 2, 3, or 4 pages of charts of different options, and it was overwhelming to decide which one you wanted to choose, right? Cowl. This is called the Flying V's Cowl by Lee Meredith, who is Lethal Knits, and it says a big chunk of sales will be donated to an organization doing good somewhere in the world. Click to my designer page to find out where current sales will be going. The cowl is part of a pattern set for fingerless mitts, mittens, leg warmers, and a cowl, all in your choice of chevron blocks, stranded colorwork patterns. This came out in November of 2012. I bought the yarn for it at the time. And you're just carrying your color the whole way. So there's long repeats, 16 stitches in between that you have to trap your floats, and you don't want to trap them all in the same place. So, you know, the back side turns out not being super pretty, like some things. It's just kind of a hot mess. It was fun to knit once I got going, once I figured out what my color striping was and what, what I wanted to do with it. These colors were the ones that were used in the pattern. Let's do Cori's stories here. I have a story for you guys this week. So last Saturday I decided that I wanted to knit something super simple and easy to do, and I had seen this scarf up at B Woolen, our new local yarn store in the Twin Cities, and it was called the 10 and 2 scarf. TENNTWO. And they had a sample in the shop. And at the time, I took a picture of the sample, and it was a speckled skein of yarn and a variegated skein of yarn, and with mohair and DK weight alternated, and it was like in ribbing. This is called Unicorn Giggles by Knitted Wit. And so I came over to my shelves. Notice how they've been artfully rearranged. And I wanted to pull this out. And I just wanted to get it cast on so that I would have a take with me project for on the go or for in the car or whatever. And so I pulled out this skein of mohair, and then I started looking for the coordinating skein. I remembered that the skein, the two skeins matched. They really coordinated, and I really liked that one. And I couldn't find the DK weight skein to coordinate with this. And I was like, well, this is ridiculous. Now, if you'll remember, these shelves were really full up. There are 3 shelves here. It goes all the way up. And they're always full, and they're all my single skeins. They're skeins I bought that don't go with anything else mostly, or 2 skeins together that are the same. But all my other yarn is put away in shoeboxes, Sterilite plastic shoeboxes, or tubs in 2-gallon plastic Ziploc bags. All my sweaters quantities are all put away into closets. So these are just like the extras. So if you thought that this was all I had, bless you. But I'm looking and looking, and eventually I get frustrated. So Sunday I get up and I'm doing some work, and I think, oh, I didn't put that yarn away that was on the dining room table. So I came out and I just took almost all of it down, and I started laying it out, and I have a picture of the mess that was this table. And then I got it in my mind that I have too much yarn, and I wanted to just get rid of like half of it. There were a lot of skeins of yarn in these shelves that I didn't purchase myself, that were given to me at knitting retreats that I had won as prizes, or often when I go to teach, there will be a goodie bag, or they will give you a skein of yarn when you arrive as a gift. And a lot of times those yarns are lovely, but they're not things you chose yourself, right? And so you don't have attachment to them. You're not going to knit with them right away. And I started kind of sorting by color and kind, and I was getting all these greens, just so weird. Another reason this is a weird story this week. But I was getting all these greens piled up over on this side of the table, and I was like, wow, I've just got a lot of these like army greens, not even Kelly greens, not really bright greens, and there were some oranges and rusts too, because I have quite a bit of that. But these are mostly what I would have considered previously to be fingering weight sock skeins. And what was happening was they were all like random skeins of worsted. And then there were 2 or 3 sweaters quantities in there that I obviously had never put away, and I just stuck on the shelf. And so I sorted and sorted and sorted, and I never came up with the matching skein for this. Like I never came up with it. And I was really frustrated. And I started bagging up to give to my library knitters a bunch of the yarns that I just knew I wasn't going to get to first, right? Like they're beautiful yarns, but they're just things I'm not going to get to. And they are knitting hats for charity this year. And they're all trying different hats. It's been really fun to watch. So I thought I'll just put together a bag or 2 for them and see if any of them want any of it. And they were meeting for the first time this week in a driveway. Many of them have been vaccinated, and we had beautiful weather. And so they were going to meet. And so I called and said, does somebody want to stop by and pick up, this yarn? So she did, and she took it to the group, and it felt so good. It just felt so great. But it led to me attempting to go into the closets and find skeins of yarn that did not belong there or were not matched up with anything. And it became this huge, do you know how when you're working on a project and it becomes bigger than when you first started? Yeah, that's what happened to me. And I was frustrated that I couldn't put my hands on it. And I thought, why are you even looking? You have so much design work to do. Why are you spending all this time looking for skeins of yarn that you don't need? You have other things you could certainly cast on. But I started putting away the sweaters quantities into 2-gallon Ziploc bags, and then I ran out of Ziploc bags, so then I had to order more. You know, what happened. And so finally on Monday, I was getting stuff put back, and I wasn't coming up with it. And then I got down to like the last little things, right? The things you have to take care of, but they're not where they belong. And it's like you cleaned out the junk drawer, but now you have this pile of things that need to be taken care of. And that's where I was at. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to text Angel, who is one of the co-owners of Bee Woolen, and just say, hey, what am I looking for? Because this is what I thought I was looking for. Not this bright, but I thought I was looking for a cream skein with these colors in it by Knitted Wit, right? So this is what I'm looking for, is this cream kind of colored skein. And so I texted her and I said, you know, I can't find the pattern for one thing, which I now found the pattern. I found the picture, and it's a pattern for their shop. So I don't think you can get it on Ravelry. It was a shop pattern where they were selling the yarn from Knitted Wit, something that they made up. But you could call them and buy the pattern probably and the yarn from them. And she got back to me and she's laughing and she goes, that order is from the first time you came here, Cori, and you bought hot pink DK weight to go with it. I wasn't even looking for the right yarn. It was so out of my realm of possibility for what I was looking for to coordinate with this that I didn't even realize. But when I used the other skein of this yarn to knit something else up, neither then did I realize that I had purchased it to go with this. Ah, what a mess. I think that they did not have it in stock at the time. Now it kind of rings a bell. One of my knitter friends says, if I remember right, they didn't have the coordinating one and you thought, oh, hot pink will be just as good. But I already used up a skein of this. And so, and I thanked her profusely for being the yarn shop owner that has to get the crazy questions from the customers, right? I mean, they must just get remember that it was that blue hat that and they're like, I do not know what you're talking about. She could have just been like, sorry, Cori, right? Like, but she took the time and she looked it up and she remembered and got back to me. So I have now gone out and purchased from Knitted Wit the skein of yarn that goes with this. It has not arrived yet because I don't have 2 of these to make the scarf. And I think I really wanted the coordinating skein in the first place. But what actually happened then was the 7 boxes, Sterilite big quart boxes that have sweaters quantities had to come out of the closet. So husband lifted them down because my shoulder's been still bothering me. And I sorted by color, which they kind of were before. So I have an entire box of just yellow and gold sweaters quantities. One with just orange and rust, and one with just raspberry, and one with blue or tealy. And it just opened my eyes to the yarn, the amount of yarn that I have, and the quantity, and how much I want to knit. And most of those have projects planned for them. And I've just taken on 13 new design things for the upcoming year, which means I won't be knitting for myself, and I won't be knitting most of that yarn up into sweaters for myself. So I love the yarn and I don't feel bad about it really, in the sense that I know I will knit up that yarn someday, but I will be now going through some more of that. And I went into the closet in the office where the littler boxes are with individual stuff, and those are alphabetized, but I kind of a lot of it was sitting on the floor of that closet, the boxes, because I'd take them down and not get them back in the right spot. So I put that all back and away, and then talked to the husband, and I said, you know, I've really been thinking about moving upstairs to the bonus room, which is a room that was a playroom for Kylie when she lived here, and she's been gone now for 5, 6, 7 years, something like that, you know, 6 years. And my husband's working out of the office. He's made that his office, which just means he's sitting at the wood table that was in his room with his laptop. But there's a giant closet in that room. When we moved into this house, that room was unfinished, and it has a little step down when you walk into it, one step down. And so we had them carpeted and painted and put in this huge closet. So all the toys for her whole, you know, life could be in there. So the Legos and the American Girl dolls and all that, the games and all that could be in there. Now a lot of that stuff is gone. We have cleaned out some of that, and now what's in there are a bunch of Kylie's high school projects, and you know, there's poster board in there and some of her purses and bags and backpacks, but it's not being used well, and all my yarn would fit in there great. And I could podcast from up there. I wouldn't have to have the dining room full of mannequins, and not that we're really entertaining in here, so it doesn't really matter, but it could. And so I talked to him about that. He goes, I think that would be a great idea to get it all out of the office and move it upstairs. You know, you could have a computer up there, you could, you know, kind of shut it up, work up there, not have to worry about always cleaning everything up and tidying it up. So it kind of turned into this project after project. We bought this new furniture for the family room. We want to get some furniture, a new desk for the office. We have a credenza and a desk, and they have been hard worn. The front is all just dinged up from us using it for so many years, and it was a beautiful desk, but we didn't spend a lot for it when we started, and it would just be nice. And we have outgrown the credenza because it's just full of paperwork and stuff, and mostly bills and that kind of thing. And so my files are in plastic boxes, like file boxes, 2 file boxes in there, like all my pattern work and then all my file folders. So we really just need to, you know, how that has happened during the pandemic, right? We're all moving forward in different ways, figuring out how we best live in our spaces. But yeah, that became just a stupid problem, right, where I just couldn't find the yarn. And by Wednesday I was like, I've been working on this project for days, I really need to get some of this design work done. And then Wednesday hit, and it was rainy and cold, and I decided I'm gonna bake that kamut bread. And if you follow me on Instagram, some of you probably saw that I put up a film of me making kamut bread, which is a ancient grain flour that came from a lady in Utah, the Food Nanny. I follow her on Instagram, and they have found an organic, natural, no GMO grain that they make their flour out of, and then they manufacture it, and you can purchase it, and it's supposed to be good for people with gluten intolerance, but I just wanted to try it. So I bought her starter pack, which was her book and her whisk and her flour and her salt, because she has the French gray salt, and I hadn't taken the time to make it, and I've had it for about a month at least, because I didn't know if I could knead the bread with my thumbs, right? So I've been kind of waiting, and so I spent the day, and I'm not I have made bread many times, but I don't always make yeast bread from scratch, and so this is a different technique, right? You make a sponge first. So you don't start with just your yeast and water, so you make the sponge, and the sponge was the flour, the honey, the yeast, and the water. And then you let it rise a little, and then you pour in 4 more cups of flour. So not a difficult recipe, but my sponge wasn't really foaming and bubbling or rising, but I was like, this is new to me. So then I did my raise, and I punched it down, and they never really raised, and then they didn't get anywhere in the loaf pans. By that time, you're several hours in, right? And you're frustrated, and so I'm like, I'm just baking it. I don't know. Maybe it'll rise in the oven, you know? Well, just shut the door and pray. And it didn't. It was flatter than flat, and it was like eating raw dough. It was just the taste. I ate the crust and like the piece. The taste was fine, as far as like I wasn't going to be offended by the taste of the flour. It was just it just never got to where it should be. So I posted because I videoed for you guys thinking, oh, this is going to be great. It's a rainy day. But I think my yeast is bad. I mean, the bottom line is that's where we've gotten to at this point. I've talked to lots of people. I reached out to the food nanny, and I had bought a block of yeast and had it in the cupboard. It was new. I hadn't opened it, but I didn't have it in the fridge. And, you know, yeast is live, but it's not refrigerated in the grocery store. And my cupboards could have gotten warm. We do have under-counter lighting, you know, but not under that. Anyway, doesn't matter. Bad day. The lady called to tell me that my glasses got broken. I called the doctor and said, my foot still hurts. Should my foot still hurt like a 7? Because it hurts like a 7. If I have not walked outside, I have not taken walks, it still hurts. Should it hurt this much? And the nurse called back. The doctor wants to see you, and he can't see you till late next week, which is going to be, well, when you see this tomorrow. And so I was frustrated because it's been 13 weeks. Now it's going to be 14 weeks where I have not been able to really get up and walk or move around. And I'm feeling really lethargic and frustrated by that. It was just like a combination of things that just continued to happen throughout the day where I was just more and more frustrated. And my husband and I are still sharing a car, which shouldn't be a big deal. I should be thankful that we have one car that runs really well, but he's restoring his truck, and he has been restoring it since October, and we've been sharing a car, which means one day a week when he goes to work, I have no vehicle, which is fine, except that always inevitably ends up to be the one day that you need to run to the post office or you want to go somewhere, right? It isn't the not having the car, it's the knowing that you can't go somewhere when you want to go somewhere. And he has been super kind. He often drops the dog off at daycare. He will often go in the morning to the gas station in town and bring me a pop and put it in the fridge. Super spoiled. So when I get up, I have a fountain pop for the day whenever I want to have it. But it just, by the end of the day, so many things, you know. It was crazy. I couldn't find the yarn, which turned into just a huge mess of yarn. Like it just turned into a huge frustrating mess of yarn. And then the bread didn't rise, and I'm missing something. Something else happened, and I can't think of what it is right now. But it was a bad day. I do not always have great stories to tell. I mean, the stories can be funny, but this story was just stupidity, not knowing what you ordered for yourself. So I am going to get that yarn in the mail and cast on the 10 and 2 scarf. Call Be Woolen. They're having a plaid blanket knit along. So if you have wanted to cast on your plaid blanket, go and follow them. Be Woolen, BEWOOLEN on Instagram, because they've been posting pictures of people's plaid blankets and the colors that their people are choosing. So that's kind of fun. But they are having a knit along if you want to join them or order yarn from them or whatever. They've been super supportive of me in this journey, and they still have the sample knits up there. So that's Cori's stories for this week. I gave this book for Christmas to a number of people, and it has a wonderful story, and it has been sitting on my coffee table in the family room, and I walk by it all the time, and I've just been thinking about it, and I thought, I don't think I ever talked about it to anybody on the podcast. And so if you have never heard or seen this book before, it's just lovely. And you can get it, where all books are sold. Here's the story. When the most recent edition of the Oxford Junior Dictionary, widely used in schools around the world, was published, a sharp-eyed reader soon noticed that about 40 common words concerning nature had been dropped. The words were no longer being used enough by children to merit their place in the dictionary. The list of these lost words included acorn, adder, bluebell, dandelion, fern, heron, kingfisher, newt, otter, and willow. Among the words taking their place were attachment, blog, broadband, bullet point, cut and paste, and voicemail. The news of these substitutions, the outdoor and natural being displaced by the indoor and virtual, became seen by many as a powerful sign of the growing gulf between childhood and the natural world. In response, Robert McFarland and Jackie Morris set out to make a spell book that would conjure back 20 of these words and the beings they name, from acorn to wren. By the magic of word and paint, they sought to summon these words again into the voices, stories, and dreams of children and adults alike, and to celebrate the wonder and importance of everyday nature. You hold that book in your hands, a book that has already cast its extraordinary spell on hundreds of thousands of people and begun a grassroots movement to rewild childhood across Britain, Europe, and North America. So these are 20 of the words. I gave a copy of this to Macy, Kylie's college roommate, and Kylie, who both love words. They're huge readers and they love words, and I just think it's something that if you love words and you love books, or you have children or grandchildren, you might want to purchase. So I'm going to show you some of the pages because they're just stunning pictures of... They're kind of watercolor in nature. Feather, the birds. So 20, they did 20 of the words with the pictures. So mostly it's a picture book with a little bit of writing, so kids can just look through, and then you can have them name, what is this? Oh, that's a lark, so that they don't lose the word for otter. Like, do we really want to lose the word otter with children? And I know they can learn it when they get older, but I just found this to be so amazing. Just such a lovely, lovely book. I think the cost maybe $25-ish. I'm not quite sure, but what they did, let me see if I can find a page. Okay, here's a short one. So this page is Ivy, and it has a picture of Ivy, and then the letters I, V, and Y are written down the left-hand side, and then there's a sentence for each of the letters. So it says, I am Ivy, a real high flyer. Via bark and stone I scale tree and spire. You call me ground cover, I say sky wire. So IVY starts the 3, and that's what they did with all the words all the way through. So the word becomes this visual letters at the beginning of each sentence, and then the sentences explain what it is. Yeah, it's just, oh, look at this page. The owl and the fox. So anyway, I carried it into the dining room because I thought I haven't shared it, and I shared it with people that I knew would appreciate it, and I think some of you will really appreciate knowing about the Book of Lost Words. And it came across it was early in the fall when I first saw it. I think I was recuperating from my first thumb surgery, and I was spending a lot of time online when I first saw it, so I ordered them early on, and then I had to have one for myself too, so then I went back and ordered another one and wrapped them up for the girls for Christmas. So wanted to include that. I'm going to be putting up a second podcast release with this one this week, and the second one is going to be all about the new little idea I had called Knitting Exchange. So if you want to take the time to take a look at that, I'm going to put it up as a separate kind of podcast so that people who are just interested in knowing just about that could go over there and find it. I have a giveaway to do this week. Some of you have been waiting for this whole time for this giveaway to happen, and it was just on a slip of paper and is at the very bottom of the stack. I have 5 bags to give away from the Ravelry draw and 2 bags to give away from the Instagram feed. So the first number that I drew was number 16 on Ravelry, and that is MV Knits, and that's Carmen, and she gets bag number 2. Carmen gets bag number 2. Send me your address, please, Carmen. Number 55, Leslie 529, and she is Leslie in Ohio, and she gets bag number 1. So Leslie, send me your address, please. And number 45, Mimi of 3 Knits, and that is Carol in Missouri. So hi, Carol, and you get bag number 4, and I will put that in the mail. Number 42, Granny Fly 81, and that is Rena in Maryland, and she gets bag number 3 from the picture. And the last one for Ravelry is number 30, and that is T. Carter 1962, and that is Tina in Kansas, and she gets bag number 5 in the picture. And so Carmen, Leslie, Carol, Rena, and Tina all get in touch with me with your first and last names and your address. You can send that via a Ravelry private message, through a DM. You can send it to me at irocknits@gmail.com, Instagram, DM, however you get it to me. Just get me your name and address so that I can get those in the mail. On Instagram, we had a ton of people tag a friend and also comment. So the person that won is someone I know. This is Bon.Van. So Bonnie from River Falls, who I know, and she tagged her friend Ellie of Bell, and Ellie of Bell also followed me. Therefore, they both win a bag. And so Bonnie, if you will contact me, and then also, I'm not sure if Ellie is a watcher of the podcast, but she does follow me on Instagram. So let her know to send me her address, or I can send them both to you if you're close friends, whatever works for you. So there's a big bag and a drawstring bag coming to Bonnie and Ellie, I assume. So I cannot thank Sandy enough for those amazing bags. There's so many of you commented about how generous that was of her to make all those bags and then offer them up. Let's do the hellos this week. Hello to Rio Knits, Holly Isaac, Quilting Chap, Janet Holler, Luana Hendricks, Ann D, Victoria Plesky, Michelle M, Terry Monk, Heather Wilson, Glenda Bathgate, Melanie Cahoon, HBWT40, Carol Childers, Carolyn Jans, Suzanne Singh, Janet Robertson, Eileen Tomero, Birdleg 61, Rebecca Knutson, Olivia Mankey, Tracy Wild, Vonda Finnezy, Annette Willis, Nancy McMahon, Chris S., Margarita Deverson, Connie S., Laura Lenke, Georgia, Kathy Goodman, I hope you're feeling better, Kathy, Wonder Willie 100, Liz Hatch, Emma Butcher, Angela Jenkins, Sharon R.S., Helen Henry, Patrine Dornbush, Claire Bruckner, Rachel Weisenstein, Susie Fab, Stephanie Haberman, Samantha Knott, Judith Muscroft, Melinda Zaccardi Rousseau, Elle Friedman, Knit Takes Two Michelle, Kathy Adkins, Brandy Stoker, Candy Harris, Judy Fick, Rula Tornoriti, Norma Williams, Pat W. Welcome to Pat. She's fairly new to the podcast. Patty Skaggs, Polly Knits, Michelle Hokinson, Cheryl Lacemaker, Deb Vandermolen, Brenda Milan, Crochet Creations by Christy, Bonnie Vandermolen, Janet Goyer, Christine Carr, Danielle Brown, Shirley Holcomb, Handmade Designs, Tensi Marco, Linda Gesling, Karen Mezzacapo, Kat Montgomery, Maggie Two Sticks, and Beraria Tanya Brock. So welcome, hello to everyone. Thanks for commenting. I hope that I responded to each and every one of your comments this week. That is very important to me, that we have a bit of a conversation and a back and forth, because otherwise I'm just sitting here talking to a screen and my own face over and over again. So I really appreciate those comments coming in. If you have not subscribed to the podcast, please do, and please tell a friend about it so that we can grow our community just a bit more. Until next time, thanks so much for watching. Waddle on. No green bananas. Keep your fork. You'll never regret ripping back. Don't complain with your mouth full. Keep it colorful. Bye. Love you all.